leadership contest has been thrown into disarray, apparently, after MPs have failed to agree a timetable for the competition at a crunch meeting, supposedly. The party is now reportedly split over whether or not to use the Tory party conference in October to crown the winner, or to use it as a platform for candidates in some kind of beauty pageant. So the prospect of the contest dragging on for longer than expected has led to some MPs suggesting that installing an interim leader might be a good way of replacing Rishi Sunak. Well, you know, there are a few other rumours knocking about today as well, including the possibility of a Suella Braverman defection to reform. But I'm joined now by Tory MP Mark Francois. Mark, thank you very much. First things first, where are we up to in terms of picking a new Tory leader?
Right, what happened was there was a meeting of Tory MPs on Wednesday evening. It's well attended, say about 2/3 of Tory MPs were there, and we discussed, you know, how we might play the leadership election. Forgive me, I won't go into exactly who said what, but about a dozen MPs spoke, and amazingly enough, there was a consensus on what to do.
OK.
And everybody, one way or another, said, don't rush, go long, take your time. So nobody wanted to be rushed into it by any different leadership candidate. And the consensus that emerged at the end was that we should use the party conference, if you like, as a sort of super hustings. It's a bit like what happened in 2005 when, you know, Cameron kind of came out of nowhere. So the idea was to use the conference in October to allow the voluntary party, and everyone agreed they should have the final decision, not the MPs.
So this is members?
Yeah, what we call the voluntary party, so councillors and activists, people who've, by the way, just slogged their guts out for 6 weeks to get the 121 of us re-elected. We owe it to them. So they go to the conference, they see these different candidates in action. We then come back in October. We as MPs then knock it down to 2, which is what it says in our rules. And then the 2 finalists go to the voluntary party in a postal ballot. And there was pretty much unanimity about that. OK, so great inside, you know, info there, in the sense that it looks as though that's what will definitely happen, so good. Well, then, sorry, just to be complete, there was then a meeting of the party board yesterday on which we have 3 MPs, and the party board didn't necessarily agree with what the MPs wanted to do. So we're going to have... No, I'm just trying to tell you where we are. Yeah. So the idea is there's going to be another meeting of the 1922 committee of the MPs next week, where we will revisit this, and whatever comes out of that, I think the party board would be well advised to listen to. OK, so that's the situation.
All right, so still a little bit of chaos, but at least the MPs themselves, most of them seem to know what they want to do. Fine, OK, Suella Braverman, is she staying? Is she going? There's strong rumours that she's going to be joining Reform. It's been reported in the I newspaper as well as elsewhere tonight.
Well, look, I had a meeting with Suella earlier this week. She never gave me any hint of that or any indication at all. So I'm not a mind reader, but I would be surprised if she were to do that. I mean, I think, like many of us, she's very disappointed about what's happened. She's very disappointed about how poor the campaign was.
Do you not think, to be fair, do you not think she's actually quite disappointed with how poorly she's been treated since as well? I mean, a lot of people are slagging her off from within her own party, you know, treating her as though she's this big toxic individual, whereas actually another way of looking at it is that actually maybe Suella's views on things were more popular than what the party ended up doing at the last election.
Well, I think a lot of us are frustrated by the campaign, the launch, D-Day, betting gate. You know, it wasn't easy when you're out slogging your guts out. And again, I just make the point, with our voluntary party out there doing it with us, you know, then to come home at the end of the day, you know, you've been out leafleting or door knocking, you get home, you throw some food in the microwave, you sit down in front of the 10 o'clock news, and there it all is. Right? So we were not well led in that campaign, let's be honest about it. So a lot of people are very bruised about that. And so a lot of people are very frustrated about how bad the campaign was. But that doesn't mean you defect to another party. Look, I've been slagged off in the Tory party by some people for years. Doesn't mean I'm going to defect.
No, fine. I do wonder, though, in terms of actual policy, and this is the thing. So You know, she's very, very strong when it comes to migration, illegal immigration, stopping the boats, leaving the ECHR, that kind of stuff. If the Tory party doesn't go in that direction, then surely she's going to be more aligned with Nigel Farage.
Well, look, some of us thought the Rwanda bill wasn't tough enough. You know what happened. In the end, we'll never know now, because other than one flight taking off with that person that volunteered to go in return for some thousands of pounds, the bill was never put to the test. And now Labour have junked it. Still yet to hear how Labour are going to crack this problem, and this I can tell you, if they don't, people will get angrier and angrier. That I'm sure about.
I mean, what do you not have more in common with Nigel Farage than Tom Tugendhat?
I'm a Conservative. Nigel's not a member of the Conservative Party. Tom and I come from two different traditions in the party, although when it comes to defence, you can barely put a fag paper between us. So Nigel is not a member of the Conservative Party. His candidates were out there trying to knock us out. You know, they weren't there to put their arms around us, they were there to defeat us. And because of what they did, there are a lot of Tory MPs who didn't make it back. So I don't see why we should throw our arms around Nigel and thank him for trying to wipe us out.
OK, all right, and I can't remember if I've asked you this before, I'll ask it again. Is there any chance that you might run to be the next leader?
You're very kind. We shouldn't talk about political betting, should we?
Probably. Well, you probably shouldn't. No,
but if I were you, Patrick, if I were you, I'd place your last tenner on someone else. But thanks for asking.
All right? Okay, good stuff. No, I've just about got time for another topic, because when Keir Starmer first came into Downing Street, he was not actually particularly popular. I get, you know, massive majority and all of that. In the personal popularity stakes, not particularly popular. But apparently now, he is as popular as Boris Johnson was at the height of the vaccine rollout. That's according to a new poll. It's found a whopping 36% of the public so far think he's doing a good job as leader. Well, has he had a strong start?
Look, they're having a honeymoon. Let's be honest. They won the election with a majority of 172. We as a party need to reflect on that. We need to learn lessons from what happened, which is why many of the MPs think we shouldn't rush. You know, we need to take on board what's happened. They're in a honeymoon. It's not unusual for a new Prime Minister to be popular. Let's see what happens by the time they get to mid-term. He gave a good speech, I thought, in the debate on the Loyal Address, following the King's speech. Fair play. He said some nice things about Sir David Amess, who I was very close to, so fair play for that, and about Joe Cox, by the way. But he did say one thing I want to highlight. He said, under Labour, there'll be no more gimmicks. I think that might come back to haunt him, Patrick.